Through an opening in the canvas, I could see a beautiful circle of sunlit grass, closed off by lorries and neighbouring tents. In the centre of the clearing, something was moving. Although viewed from the darkness of the shelter, it was nothing more than a black smudge, its edges blurred by the searing sun. As if in a trance, I left the safety of the canopy and crept squinting into the light. The sky was an unbroken swathe of blue, and the heat made my skin prickle. I blinked away the sunspots, the edges sharpened, and soon the black smudge took shape. It was a baby chimpanzee, quietly hoo-hooing to himself, between mouthfuls of assorted fruit that lay scattered around his feet. At that moment, my whole world was made up of me and that baby chimp. It was a little bit of heaven and nothing else mattered. I held my breath and ventured closer. My mouth was dry and my heart felt like it might burst through my chest. But excitement overrode apprehension. I stood over my new friend, who looked straight up at me. He had beautiful big brown eyes and looked so innocent and vulnerable. We stared into each other's eyes for what seemed like an eternity. It was as if we had become locked together by some strange animal magnetism. I finally remembered to breathe. The chimp looked away, breaking the connection, and sniffed at the grass before picking up a piece of fruit and passing it to me. It was a thrilling moment. Here I was, hanging out with a wild animal. I'd entered David Attenborough territory, the stuff of dreams. I took the fruit, pretended to eat it, but threw it over my shoulder instead. The chimp didn't seem to mind. He hoo-hooed contentedly while I beamed back at him. I'd never been so happy. I felt like I could cry. The serenity was broken by what sounded like a fighter jet tearing through the sky. Even now, when I recall that shriek, it makes me want to clamp my hands over my ears. My eyes were drawn to a shape shuffling under a lorry, the shadow it cast becoming suddenly bigger and smaller as it went about its business. Before I could hazard a guess at what it might be, it had shot from the shadows and into the clearing. It was another chimp, but 10 times as big as my new best buddy, and evidently far less friendly. The ambush was on. The big chimp ploughed towards me in a sideways gallop, her enormous arms crashing into the turf and her legs swinging seamlessly behind them. Her shrieking became louder and louder, as if she was trying to bury me in sound. Soon she was so close I could see her enormous teeth unsheathed for battle. Seconds earlier, I had been bathing in bliss. Now I was in a state of terror. My animal instinct kicked in and I contemplated escaping. But when you're faced with a 50-kilogram ape, you can't contemplate for long. The big chimp came around the back of her little friend, as if measuring the distance, and when it had got to within about 20 feet of me, decided to pounce. What had been a beautiful bright blue was suddenly black, and getting blacker fast. It was as if the sky had collapsed and was falling in on me. The big chimp landed right on top of me and pinned me to the floor like a cartoon boulder. She swung her thick arms above her head and brought them down with great force onto my chest and face, like a drummer in a rock band attacking her kit. She buried her face in mine, gnashed her teeth, and swiveled her neck from side to side like a dog with a rag doll. I covered my head with my hands, but when I opened my eyes and looked through my fingers, I saw that those teeth were dripping with blood. I could feel no pain, but I instinctively knew it was my blood, not the chimp's. It was at that moment, the most horrendous moment of my life, that pure blind panic was replaced by the urge to live. I realized I had a choice. Either I stayed on my back and let this ape beat me into an early grave, or I attempted to escape. In other words, I had to make the situation worse in order to make it better. The baby chimp was chained to a peg, so I hoped beyond hope that my attacker was as well. I somehow managed to twist my body, which knocked my attacker off balance and created a little bit of space between us. I brought my foot up and smashed it into the chimp's chest before scrambling back a couple of feet. The chimp regained her footing and came hurtling towards me again. But just as she was about to come crashing down on top of me for a second time, the chain that was indeed attached to her collar went taut. The chimp had lost none of her ferocity. Her shrieking was as loud and horrific as ever. Blood was everywhere, and I had no idea what parts of my body it was spurting from. But I was out of harm's way, albeit by a matter of inches. You might be wondering where I was serving when this incident took place. After all, chimpanzees are pretty thin on the ground in the Middle East. The truth is, I was only 10 years old, and chimps were part of a circus visiting Burton-on-Trent. Which goes to show you most pivotal moments, those moments that change the course of your life, can last for seconds, spring from the most unlikely of situations, and be almost impossibly surreal.